Toms River, being a very diverse community, has quite a few biospheres. It has a large woodland section with assortments of trees and shrubs, the swampy marshes with various reeds, the Barnegat Bay, estuary and home to many sea creatures, and others.
Various species of trees grow on the New Jersey woodlands: spruce, oak, pine, and evergreens. Many of these are coniferous, meaning they have pine cones with which to spread seeds. The trees and reeds by the shore take advantage of their location by dropping their seeds into the flowing river. Those seeds are then spread along the coast and germinate in new places. Animals in this environment feed on detritus, seeds, nuts, berries, plants, zooplankton, phytoplankton, crabs, worms, snails, pickleweed, grasses, marsh hay, and smaller fish. Bayberries have small tapered leaves covered with blue-gray waxy berries in the fall. They are a favorite food of migrating birds and were once used to make candles.
Marsh plants are semi-aquatic plants that grow in soft, wet land. Most are monocots: sedge, sphagnum, grasses, and cattails. Deep marsh plant communities have standing water depths of between 6 inches and 3 or more feet during the growing season. In addition to providing fish and wildlife habitat, marshes have other functions, including floodwater retention, protecting the shorelines from erosion, aesthetics, and water quality functions involving the trappings of sediments and assimilation of nutrients. Animals use wetlands as nesting or nursery grounds, or as a rest spot during migration. They also help to maintain the water quality as the marsh grasses slow the runoff and allow sediments to fall out of suspension. The plants remove excess nutrients and toxic heavy metals. Wetlands can control floods and reduce erosion during storms. Despite the importance of these areas, at least 50% of the wetlands in the U.S. have already been destroyed. They are being drained, filled, converted to farmland, or being built upon.
Wetlands are areas where the soil is saturated or covered by water. Because of the water, they lack oxygen. The plants that are able to cope with the poor soil are called hydrophytes. These marshes were created over thousands of years when the seawater level rose and left mud and silt of the surface of areas. Grasses are able to withstand the inundation developed and were able to spread sediment and sustain other living organisms. There are approximately 40,000 species of spiders. Many of these, such as the one shown, have adapted a camouflage to blend in with their surrounding habitat.
Mushrooms are the fleshy, spore-bearing, fruiting body of a fungus, typically produced above ground, on soil, or on its food source. They grow best in some kind of compost, which can range from manure to wood chips.
Moss commonly grows close together in clumps or mats in a damp or shady location. They do not have flowers or seeds, and their simple leaves cover the thin, wiry stems. There are approximately 12,000 species of moss.
A lichen is not a single organism the way most other living things are, but rather it is a combination of two organisms which live together. Most of the lichen is composed of fungal filaments, but living among the filaments are algae cells, usually from a green algae or a cyanobacterium. The fungal partner benefits by getting sugars, while the algal partner gets protection, as the fungi normally forms the outer surface.
This climbing, evergreen, woody plant is called ivy. Ivies have, however, proved to be a serious invasive weed in the parts of North America where winters are not severe. The flowers are produced in late autumn, a greenish yellow, and very rich in nectar. They are an important late food source for bees and other insects. The fruit are small black berries ripening in late winter and are important foods for many birds, though poisonous to humans. The seeds are dispersed by birds eating the fruit. Tree ring dating is a scientific method of dating based on the analysis of patterns of tree rings. It can date the time at which tree rings were formed, in many types of wood, to the exact calendar year. Growth rings can be seen in a horizontal cross-section cut through the trunk of the tree.
To me, a lush carpet of pine needles or spongy grass is more welcome than the most luxurious Persian rug.
There are 300 varieties of squirrels around the world, but only 10 in North America. Red and brown squirrels that live in evergreen trees eat seeds of pine cones, while gray squirrels that live in the woods of oaks, ashes, and beeches mainly eat beech nuts and acorns.
In the muddy marsh, you can find detritus, bodies or fragments of dead organisms. They are colonized by communities of microorganisms which decompose or remineralize the material. It is a source of nutrition for animals. Microorganisms which multiply using the absorbed carbon from the detritus use materials such as nitrogen and phosphorus to synthesize the components of their own cells. Sedimentation causes those organic particles to settle and accumulate. Sedimentary rocks cover most of the Earth's crust and contain materials generated by living organisms.
Sediment actually forms in the sea as microscopic organisms, or plankton, build shells out of dissolved calcium carbonate or silica. Dead plankton steadily shower their dust-sized shells onto the seafloor where they accumulate in thick layers. Our marsh can be considered a tidal marsh. Tidal marshes are found along coasts and estuaries of which the flooding characteristics are determined by the tidal movement of the adjacent estuary, sea, or ocean.
Many animals call the Barnegat Bay home. Birds among these are mallard ducks, herons, ospreys, and seagulls. Like 90% of northern birds, these migrate to warmer climates during the winter. They leave because of the lack of food and shelter during the cold climates. Male mallards, or drakes, are more distinctively colored ducks with green heads with a white stripe upon a chestnut-colored chest and gray bodies. The females are brown in color, with iridescent wing feathers and intricate patterns. Sand accumulates on the beach from longshore drift or onshore currents. There is a long tidal range that exposes wide expanses of sand at low tide. Tides are created because of the attraction between the Earth and the Moon. Each day there are 2 high tides and 2 low tides. Winds and currents move the surface water, causing waves. There is little actual forward motion of individual water particles in a wave, despite the large amount of energy it may carry forward.
Estuaries are places where freshwater rivers and streams flow into the ocean mixing with the seawater. This creates the brackish water, with a high level of salinity. This allows the phragmites, or reeds, to grow in marshes and swampy areas of the region. Also considered a watershed, all the water from nearby ecosystems drain into one place, the Barnegat Bay. Because of this precious resource is in danger from the sewage, fertilizers, pollutants, and waste poured into it every day.
Submerged aquatic vegetation, including benthic algae and vascular plants such as seagrass, also inhabit the waters. Eelgrass creates food and cover for invertebrate species, which are in turn eaten by fish and waterfowl. They provide essential spawning and nursing habitat for crabs, fish, and mollusks.
To stand at the edge of the sea, to sense the ebb and flow of the tides, to feel the breath of a mist moving over the Great Salt Marsh, to watch the flight of shorebirds that have swept up and down the surf lines of the continents for untold thousands of years, to see the running of the old eels and the young shad to the sea, is to have knowledge of things that are as nearly eternal as any earthly life can be.
The bay has been a long-time center for commercial fishing. The village of Toms River was a significant whaling port in the 19th century. Many New Jersey residents go fishing in the bay as a hobby. As a result, overfishing occurs. The government has created laws to protect the fish. A fisherman must throw back the fish unless it is over the size limit and must carry a license for freshwater fishing. Unfortunately, the U.S. government allows motorboat engines to be made with no pollution controls. Therefore, motorboat engines contaminate the water with their exhaust and by spilling oil and gasoline. The chemicals in this pollution can kill fish eggs and other forms of water life.
Please protect and be kind to our local ecosystem.